What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Direct Snap. We're here to give you all the Week 3 rundown and let you know what to look for college football this weekend. So, a few of the big games we're going to talk about, starting with this Friday, tomorrow night, Arizona at K-State. What are you looking forward to in that game?
Well, it's some of the top dogs in the Big 12, so it'll be definitely a really good matchup. There's like 5 teams in the Big 12 I would kind of see contending, and these are 2 of them. But Kansas State's coming off kind of a scare. Tulane gave them a run for their money last week, and that would have been pretty disappointing for K-State. But Tulane's also a really good team. They're coming to Norman this week, so that'll be exciting. But Arizona's looked really good recently. They haven't been going through too much trouble. Obviously, last week with North Arizona.
North Arizona.
It was a little scary, but their first game against New Mexico was really promising. So they have a really high flying offense. So it'll be exciting to see that matchup.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this one, and I think it'll be a great game. Currently, the spread is at -7 in favor of K-State. I think Arizona's going to cover. Just my opinion.
Think they're going to win?
I think whoever has the ball last is going to win.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah. But also, fun thing to look for in this game. This game's going to tell you a lot about what's going to happen in the Big 12.
Yep.
Just with these 2 teams and how they play against other teams during the season. Just going to show you a lot to look for. But important note, this is not a interconference matchup.
Yep.
This game was scheduled back when Arizona was in the Pac-12. And it is still listed as a non-conference matchup, meaning that at the end of the season, if there's a tie in conference win percentage or anything like that, this will not be considered a conference game.
Which is pretty big because both of the teams are in contention for the championship.
It is, but also of note, if it happens to be a 2-team tie with Arizona and K-State, the Big 12 does specifically say head-to-head tiebreakers.
And I guess you have to include that.
So
it's even not a conference matchup.
If there's no other teams inside the tiebreaker scenario and it's just Arizona, K-State, this could still hold weight in a tiebreaker scenario.
I think it's this game and it's Utah and OSU. It's kind of who performs the best out of those 4 teams would honestly be my early season prediction on who's going to win the Big 12 because those are kind of the 4 top teams for me. But, yeah.
And next up, on Saturday morning, we're starting off right. We've got number 4 Alabama playing at Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's one of those teams that you don't want to catch at the wrong time.
Yep.
They're just a really solid football team. They're going to play sound football. And, Alabama's really talented. They could go in there and absolutely win this game by a lot. But Wisconsin can also hold their own. Wisconsin could hold even in this game, and Alabama struggled in a couple of their games in the beginning of the games. So if Wisconsin can hang in there through the first 3 or so quarters, I would be surprised to see Alabama run away with it at that point, and Wisconsin could give Bama and all the people in Tuscaloosa a real scare.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting to see a down south SEC team go north to play the Big Ten because a lot of people talk in the Big Ten, all the fans say, SEC never comes up here, But this week, Bama's coming up, and just a week before, Texas went up there. So, yeah, it'll be fun to see. The environment will be awesome. Their stadium is really cool. The spread's -16 right now with Bama. I honestly think they're going to cover. I think this could be a blowaway matchup pretty easily. Obviously, it's at home in Wisconsin, so that could raise some concern. But Wisconsin looked a little shaky. They're just last week they played South Dakota, and it was not a pretty matchup. So I don't know. And obviously Bama's matchup early in the game wasn't too pretty, but they scored like 3 or 4 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and they just kind of put it away.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns.
4, yeah. So once they kind of realized what they were doing, they kind of just locked in and just took care of business. So I think they'll take care of business here, and I think it won't be a necessarily close game.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the game this week that probably is going to impact the playoffs the most. Memphis at Florida State. And it's not for the reasons you're thinking. Florida State's 0-2. They're gone from the playoff.
Yep.
But there's not a whole lot of real playoff elimination type games this week. So Memphis at Florida State. Memphis is your group of 5 contender that's going to be trying to get that 12th spot in the playoff. They've started the season off 2-0 with 2 really impressive wins over North Alabama with a shutout 40-0 and over Troy 38-17. Memphis has got a really solid squad, and a lot of people are picking them to be the 12th seed and make the playoff. So this is their chance to show what they can do against an actual Power 4 team.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great opportunity because Florida State is just down in the gutter right now. They are really struggling, and it is an at home, so you're like, oh, Florida State at home, it should be crazy, but Boston College went there and it didn't seem that much of a problem, and a lot of stuff at home, they get demoralized pretty easily. I feel like at Boston College, they kind of stopped going crazy. They were also encouraged not to do the fight song.
That's so
they were
so
told
wrong.
not to do it. I think it was after every touchdown or something, or a third down.
Listen, people that do not love college football should not be making decisions for
100%.
college football.
Yeah, so they're trying to get rid of that and everything, but so I don't know if that is gotten rid of or not, but that definitely honestly impacts the environment. But yeah, Memphis is obviously your probably top 1, 2, or 3 in the group of 5 right now, looking for that playoff spot. And if they get this done, it's hard not to put them as the favorite. I think them, Boise State, and Tulane are probably the 3 that I'm looking at for sure. But yeah, 11 a.m. Memphis 2-0, Florida State 0-2. It'll be good.
And with Memphis, their only 2 real challenges the rest of the way, if they win this game, would be against North Texas and at Tulane. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that at Tulane match, I think it's the last game of the season.
It
or
is.
at least close to it. So that could be like a cool ranked matchup.
That could be
like
who gets in type of
like
game.
whoever wins this gets in, and that would be an awesome matchup to see if they're both undefeated then.
Yeah. Next up, speaking of Boston College, the Owls are going to travel to play at the Missouri Tigers. This is a 6 versus 24 matchup. And what do you think about this game?
I'm kind of shocked Boston College is ranked right now. Obviously, they're in the bottom, but that's kind of confusing to me. But I think it'll be a good matchup. It'll be to kind of prove if Boston College is like legit or not. I think if they hang in there, like if they cover the spread, which is 16, then I think they definitely deserve to be ranked. But after just beating a Florida State team that's obviously down in the gutter, I don't know how impressive that really is. But this will be a great matchup for Missouri too, because Missouri hasn't really had competition yet. They've been 2 weeks. They've laid a goose egg on both their opponents, and they weren't really good opponents. So this is definitely a step up in competition. So kind of get them more prepared for SEC play. But yeah, 11:45 kickoff, and I think Missouri will run away with it too. I think the 16-point spread, I think Missouri will put at least 3 touchdowns on Boston College.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be somewhere in that area. I do think that Boston College is a good team. I like their quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, can really play well. But Missouri has just got too high-powered of an offense. And I think Boston College will put some points on their defense, but Missouri's just talented enough that they're going to be able to get stops when they need to get stops and win this game pretty comfortably.
Yep, and they have Brady Cook, a great quarterback. He's definitely a game manager, but in a good way. And then they also have who's the receiver? Luther Burden.
Yep, they've got Luther Burden.
Luther Burden, yeah, and he's really good. So he's one of the best receivers in the SEC, in my opinion.
Probably.
But yeah, definitely exciting matchup.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a rivalry game. And this is one of those matchups that they wanted to keep it alive, even though one team decided to leave the conference. I'm not talking about Bedlam. One of those teams was a little girl about the whole scenario and didn't want to play. But Oklahoma State. But Oregon at Oregon State this weekend. And, Oregon's favored by 16.5 in this game. And truthfully, I'm just not sure why.
Yeah.
Oregon State's a good team. They're playing at home in this. They feel like they just got a knife stuck in their back by Oregon leaving the conference and just kind of abandoning them. I think that Oregon State wins this game, straight up.
Really? And it's definitely going to be some hatred on the field, which I'm all for, aggressive rivalry stuff. As long as it stays on the field, I'm all good with it. It's really fun. And, Oregon State beat San Diego State 21-0 last week. So obviously not a ton of offense right there, but dude, goose egg on San Diego State. They're also right up there in the group of 5 chase. I don't think they're too far behind the Tulanes and the Memphises.
Yeah.
So it'll be a good matchup. It's also at Oregon State, and that environment is one of the best non-Power 4 stadiums for sure. It gets really loud in there, and obviously it's a rivalry, so anything can happen. And Oregon's not looking the best either. They're usually projected in the preseason to be like number 3. Like they're way up there in people's rankings, and they've been just struggling recently. The past 2 games are kind of, I feel like they just don't have a flow. Like they're just not like having a consistent just game. Which kind
they don't have the chemistry as an offense.
Yeah, it's all the portal stuff really can cause that on teams, and I think that's kind of what happened here. But I think if they have the skill, like their roster is great. So if they can all come together and get chemistry and stuff, I think they'll be fine. But they just got to find that.
Yep. Next up, another team that's really just struggling on offense, and they just don't have the chemistry. They don't have the guys. They've had to deal with a lot of injuries. The Oklahoma Sooners. Tulane's coming to Norman for the first time since 2021, and that game was supposed to be at Tulane, but there was a hurricane at the time, and they ended up playing in Norman, and they're back now. And this game has a lot of potential to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Tulane has got a really fun-to-watch style of offense, a lot of crossing routes, a lot of drag routes, a lot of just misdirection from the receivers and offense as a whole. And then they've got a quarterback also that can run the ball and he can make plays with his feet. But OU, they are playing the season with a great defense, and their offense has been struggling. There's been a lot of injuries.
Yep.
There's not a lot of chemistry, but we'll see what we get from them this weekend.
Yep.
I feel like this is really kind of a make or break weekend.
Yeah.
OU needs to put it together this weekend to show what they can be before the SEC play starts.
Yeah, it's a massive step up in competition, in my opinion. Houston, doesn't go unnoticed, but losing the UNLV, it's kind of hard to take them as like a really serious Big 12 contender. But, Tulane's definitely a step up. They gave Kansas State a run for their money, and Kansas State's one of the best Big 12 teams. So that's, that raises some concern as an OU fan. But, their quarterback is also really good. Mensa, I think his name is Mensa, something like that. But, yeah, they're really legit. They're one of the top group of 5 teams. And them coming to Norman, I think the home field advantage does play a factor here because I think OU fans kind of can see what's on the line and kind of see how important this game really is. But, the spread's also -13, so under 2 touchdowns as an OU playing a group of 5 team. It's pretty crazy to see that. But, after seeing the past 2 weeks, it kind of does make sense because obviously the injuries are just really jarring. We have injuries everywhere, and it kind of came out of nowhere, man. We have the whole O-line, a lot of receivers. But that's also not the main it is the main concern, but it's not the biggest concern. It's like we have a quarterback that's he's just I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's just not obviously up to par as being the number 1 ranked quarterback in the recruiting cycle. But it's really average play, I feel like. I think he has potential. Like, he has an arm. Like, he can definitely make good throws. It's just this last week he definitely was not doing that. And he also had a pretty bad interception. It was just like a misread on a route.
Well, that was actually on Dion Burks.
Yeah?
Yeah. And he even said so in an interview earlier this week. Like, hey, I was supposed to come back in and get that ball.
More on the communication, quarterback to receiver. But also, if the quarterback did communicate that right, then it is on the receiver. But.
Yeah, like that's one of those things where between the offensive line, they haven't given up a lot of sacks on the year, but that offensive line is just getting pushed in and the pocket's being squeezed every single snap. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on a quarterback. And then when you're playing without your top 5 receivers from last year, that's going to make things even more challenging later on. Next up, we've got the team that I affectionately call the Giant Killers. We've got Notre Dame at Purdue Boilermakers. And this is a team that they're no strangers to having big brand teams, big name teams, top ranked teams come into town, and they love taking them down on their home field. Notre Dame at Purdue. The spread puts this game at 9.5 in favor of Notre Dame. What do you think?
I don't know about that spread. I really want to predict Purdue covers that spread. It makes it a lot closer because Purdue haven't been playing a ton of like amazing teams, but they still have laid a goose egg on what is that? Indiana State. Yeah, Indiana State. So. I don't know, man. Notre Dame, I think they might have a chip on the shoulder and be a little fired up after Northern Illinois. I think they could take that perspective, or they could just be completely down on themselves and it kind of, maybe be an upset here. I think it's kind of how they respond to a loss, and a pretty bad loss, too. Northern Illinois is not a team that you would expect to have got that done. But 2:30 kick at Purdue. Purdue Stadium, again, a lot of upsets has happened there. They're very familiar with it, and they get really loud. So, I don't know, man. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go out right now and say that I think Purdue wins this game straight up. Notre Dame's starting quarterback, Riley Leonard, he's a pretty solid quarterback whenever he's healthy and playing well and all, but he hurt his shoulder in last week's game, and he's still the starting quarterback for this week. Even with that, I think between that and Purdue just having this in their DNA to get these types of wins, I'm picking Purdue. Another fun storyline for this week is Utah at Utah State. Utah's without their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, for this week. He He hurt his finger in last week's game. And Utah State, their starting quarterback is, what's his name? Blake Roberts, I think. I'll correct that if I'm wrong. Blake Barnes, I am wrong. But he was actually the starting quarterback for Utah all of last season. He was a walk-on. My favorite fun fact about him is that he was a pig farmer before he came to college football. And I'm cheering for Utah State in this game. I love cheering for this guy. He was a lot of fun to watch last year at Utah. And I think it'll be a lot of fun watching him in this game at 3:30. If you've got time, be sure to give this a click.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good watch for 3:30 because there's not a whole lot of games on that time. But yeah, again, it's a rivalry game as well. It's Utah versus Utah State. It's in-state rivalry, so anything can happen. The spread is 18.5, so it's favored to Utah quite a bit. But like you said with the quarterback, he is a pretty good performing quarterback as well. Just he's got a fun backstory, but also on the field he's pretty good as well. So it'll be an interesting matchup. Obviously, the loss with Cam Rising is pretty massive for Utah. I feel like the way they perform with and without Cam Rising over the past couple of years is definitely noticeable. And so Utah without Cam Rising, you never know what could happen.
Yeah. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you got some good knowledge for what to watch this week. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really means a lot to guys like us trying to get started.
All right. Bye.
Bye.